Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Ragmasters, a show about, you guessed it, Retrieval Augmented Generation. I'm Neil Katz, a 20-year tech entrepreneur, and with me, of course, once again, and always, is Daniel Warfield, data scientist, a RAG engineer in his own right, and a great online educator to teach everyone how to do the principles we often talk about in this show. Welcome, Daniel. How are you?
I'm doing very well, and I'm excited because my vocal cords have been kind of getting sore from talking all the time. I heard we have a guest, so maybe hopefully they can do some of the heavy lifting.
We've got a great guest and a first for the show. It's the first time we brought a guest on. Our guest today is Dave Kearney, who's the CTO of a really interesting company called AskVet. Now, AskVet is an online veterinarian service. At least that's what the origins of the company have been. You can consider them like a teledoc for pets, the leader in that space. And now, as Dave is going to tell us, they've also been innovating towards building tools for clinicians and other things. Now, I will say AskVet is a client of iLevel.ai, the company that both Daniel and I work for. And today's episode, we will be talking about some of iLevel's technologies that AskVet and Dave have employed to build out really sophisticated AI based on, more than 1.5 million transcripts of conversations between veterinary doctors and pet owners that they've been recording for the last number of years. Really smart. They've been thinking ahead of the curve before you could even do this stuff. They thought, let's go record it because one day we think you will be able to turn this into an AI. So very forward-thinking company. And I'm just excited to have Dave here today. I can't wait to get into the ins and outs of the RAG part. You and he can kind of geek down that rabbit hole of what they built, how they built it, what was difficult, what was easy, and what the superpowers are and what the challenges might still be. So with that, let's bring on Dave Kearney. Dave, how are you?
Good. Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing really well. Thanks. Dave, why don't you just start by giving us a little bit of your background,
Sure.
Your tech background, and how you come to AskVet, and we'll start there.
So I've been started as founded a company in marketing automation years ago, and I was a CEO of that for 24 years, but I sold that about 10, 15 years ago, actually 13 years ago, and have been a CTO, fractional CTO. I am a software engineer by heart, and been a fractional and full-time CTO for various companies over the last 13 years. And now I am the CTO of AskVet and a spin-off company of theirs called Brillium.ai that focuses on delivering AI to other industries outside the veterinarian industry. But primarily, I am AskVet's CTO and delivering all of their technology, both front end and back end technology, to the animal companion animal as well as the agricultural animal industries.
So walk us into it a little bit. What kind of technology did you start out with building in the AI space
Sure.
at AskVet? I believe your product you call Vera, and then we'll get into how you're taking that even to the next level.
So we can actually even start earlier than that. AskVet's been around for about 10 years. I've been connected to it for the last 10 years, and they've done an amazing job. We've done an amazing job of connecting veterinarians, professionals, with pet owners, primarily, that want to get their medical questions answered. And so we've provided a direct connection between the veterinarian and the pet owner through a variety of technologies. And we were an early adopter of artificial intelligence, using all the tools that we had in place to deliver things like Amazon, Alexa, and Google chat capabilities for people to get their medical questions answered. But it wasn't until our Vera came along and large language models came along, and our ability to use iLevel's RAG service, that things really started to change and accelerate for us. And so Vera is our ability to take, so a large portion of what we were doing before was chatting, allowing this chat between pet owners and veterinarians directly. And
Right.
now we've placed the large language model capabilities in front of that and cut out about 70 to 80% of the actual conversations that have to go on with veterinarians. Now we can get those questions answered with the large language model without having to involve an actual veterinarian.
It's kind of amazing. So take me into the building of Vera with the tools. What was the big challenge and how did you do it?
So we started with so I met your CEO Ben a few years ago, an investor, common investor introduced us, and Ben introduced me to your web widget that allowed us to put a widget on everybody's website that allows veterinarian clinics, pet insurance companies, a variety of different industries, to be able to put the Vera widget on their web page that allows people to get answers to medical questions and vet product, pet food, that sort of thing. All of that information through the widget that's on
their website,
that they can place on their website.
Yeah.
And that's worked out very, very well for us as a kind of way to introduce the technology to our customers. The interesting thing about that is that there's the way that iLevel has divided it up. It allows us to have folks that specialize in various different parts of the industry. We load all our information into iLevel, whether that's the 1.5 million chats that you mentioned before, or whether that's veterinarian specific information that we have, articles we've written, all kinds of expert information that we've written. We can load that into iLevel and then create various buckets in iLevel depending on who we want to address and what information we want to address with. So we can deliver that information with different interfaces, different moods, and different empathy levels. So we can change the bucket to say we want a professional interface for a veterinarian if we're having a conversation with a veterinarian, or a much more empathetic conversation with a pet owner who we need more emotional responses to the people that are interacting. And so all of that can happen through the iLevel RAG, and it's been very, very effective for us.
So I have a question. So that's super cool. I haven't heard of it that way. So for the folks playing at home, we have a product called iLevel. This isn't the iLevel show, but we are talking about it, and it is RAG. And it's kind of like a higher level idea, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, you basically have like a RAG system that the document store that you're querying against for your retrieval is divided by mood. Like it's divided by like conversational mode, so that you can decide conversationally how someone sort of talks and behaves by choosing, like if you were in Llama Index, for instance, you could have multiple indices or whatever, but in Groundex, you're using multiple buckets. So you have like a bucket for excited, someone's a new pet owner. So within like the sort of customer chain, you might have the excited bucket and the concerned bucket or whatever. So then you can kind of encode sort of speech sort of vibes, I guess, with RAG.
I mean, I mean, you're talking about a little more complex than we have needed. Basically, we divide into two moods, or two empathy levels between the pet owner and the professional. The professional doesn't want to hear that you're sorry that Fido is having trouble. The professional wants to hear that just the information they're asking for, whereas the pet owner responds much better to an empathetic entity. And so, but then we divide amongst those two emotions, we divide among what information is available in the RAG to respond with. So the vet professional gets all kinds of information, pretty much the gamut of the library we have, but the pet owner might be coming in through a pet insurance company, for instance.
Mm.
We want to make sure that we're answering the questions on behalf of the pet insurance company, so we have all of their product information loaded in their bucket. And then in the pet food company, we have buckets that are defined for that pet food company, so that we're answering with regards to the best information available for the nutritional value or whatever they're looking for that pet food company.
So so there's something we talked about before, and I think it's important for me to clarify. So as far as I understand, you guys were like, AI is going to be cool. Let's integrate it into our product.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were so good at that you now do it for other companies.
That's right. That's right.
So that's kind of like, this is like the subtext of this whole conversation. People don't do that. They decide to do AI and then they struggle with it and then they hire someone else. Right. People don't usually get so good at it that they make a second company around it. So just putting that out there, like, that's pretty remarkable. So I think the things that you're saying are really interesting, and they're not really the way I don't think a lot of RAG people really think about RAG. Like, as far as I understand, you're basically setting up multiple RAG systems for various parts within the customer journey, right? That's so right. When they're doing this thing, they interface with this RAG system. When they do this, they interface with that RAG system. How critical is that, in your opinion, to the performance of, your core product?
Well, basically, we are a B2B company. I mean, we started out as a B2C company, providing an app, and we still do this, providing an app for customers to pet owners to interact. But as we progress and as we become more better and better at the AI aspects of what we're doing, we found that it's much more interesting and attractive to not only the pet owner companies that address them, whether they're veterinary clinics or whether they're pet food companies or whether they're pet grooming companies or pet insurance companies that we've spoken to, but also now a tremendous amount of agriculture or large animal or large animal veterinarians that don't have all the information available at their fingertips for a large swath of different kinds of animals, whether it's chickens or cattle or horses or whatever. Large animals have, or agriculture animals have a whole different aspect. And I can tell you, the biggest problem that those industries are facing is a lack of professional veterinarians that are in those industries. The number of people actually going into large animal veterinarian that industry is shrinking. So this is becoming a really important aspect of how they're delivering service to their customers who are out in the field and need a medical assistance right away, and we can provide that through our tools.
Very cool.
I don't know if that's answering your question, because I think you also wanted to talk about the other industries as well that we're getting into, and we're starting to get into through our Brillium.ai brand. We're starting to get into financial services and legal services and other things like that, because, as you know, the same expertise that helps us deliver to the animal world is helping us now deliver to other industries as well.
So, but maybe before we jump to other industries, I'd love for you to talk a bit about the new product that you guys are launching, Vera Pro, which was built a little differently. Instead of using the no-code tools, which make it easy to load content and quickly get to market,
right?
You guys were building from scratch with the APIs, still fast to market, but a lot more sophisticated applications that you could build. And Vera Pro is just that. I understand it's for clinicians, and sounds like a much more powerful application than the original chatbot. So if you could Take
That's
us
where
inside.
That's where we're coming into other the other aspects, the more the different moods and the different emotions and so on, as well as different buckets. So basically, the same architecture exists where we're defining these buckets based on. So our underlying backend technology relies on the various buckets and information loaded into the RAG systems we're using. But then we build on different interfaces, and so we're building on interfaces. And the interfaces go across multiple industries as well as delivering Vera Pro, what you're talking about, and soon to be Vera Voice, which is a phone interface. But to answer your question, we have mobile, both Android and iOS. We have web applications coming out. We have voice applications. We have Chrome extensions. And so there's a whole variety of ways that we've built interfaces on top of the back-end architecture that are delivering different experiences for different people.
Yeah.
And so Vera Pro is basically a way for veterinarians during the course of their day, during the course of appointments with pet owners and large animal agricultural folks, to get into delivering information, getting answers to questions very quickly, and delivering out handouts and summaries to people as they are in the office, that we can deliver very, very quickly information to the pet owner, for example, that is the information that they need to walk home with, and then delivering them by either email or SMS or printouts, or however it is, that the veterinarian has complete control of the information that they want to deliver to that pet owner. So they're getting answers immediately on their iPhone or their iPad or their desktop or whatever they're using inside the appointment, as well as recording what's going on inside the appointment so that they can get transcriptions and get the information they need from that. Typically, a veterinarian goes home at night and fills out these notes that need to get put into the database, and our app allows them to do that immediately with the help of the RAG and the LLMs that we're connecting through the APIs. So same base of information through the buckets and the RAG system and the LLM we're using, but different ways of interfacing with that through mobile apps and web apps and Chrome extensions and various things like that.
It's actually really kind of amazing to me. It sounds like you start with these corpuses of information that you put into different, what we call buckets at eye level. One bucket would contain millions of transcripts of conversations between veterinary doctors and pet owners. Another bucket would contain, reference material, for example, medical reference material. Another bucket might contain information specific to a partner or company you're working with, whether that be a pet retailer or a veterinary practice. And then once you've got the kind of ingest and you've got these different buckets of content, you can mix and match those with the technology to create different kinds of experiences. Everything from, if I'm getting this right, everything from web and mobile and texting kind of consumer interfaces, all the way to clinical interfaces for doctors to have these power tools, all kind of sitting on this bed of this kind of common corpus of data, great kind of middleware in the middle, which is kind of what eye level is doing, the glue, right, and then unique experiences on top. And you kind of almost like have now like a company manufacturing plant. It sounds like you're sort of just pumping out products and different ideas.
That's right. It allows all the technology allows us to move very, very quickly to address different concerns in different industries. I mean, we've got this core technology and the middleware you're talking about, and then we can build on the front ends very, very quickly to address different needs.
Very cool. Daniel, why don't you jump in maybe some technical questions for Dave, some challenges, some solutions, kind of get in the weeds a little bit about.
All right. Now the fun's over. Now it's time to fight. No. Yeah. So you clearly have a depth of experience, right? Like you've rolled out numerous products that are based on RAG generally. Well, a lot of the industry is having a hard time with RAG, right? And LLMs in general, like productization of AI is in the common sort of space. It seems difficult, right? But to you, it almost seems easy. So I'm kind of curious, like, if you had to start a new LLM powered project, a new AI powered project, maybe with RAG, maybe not with RAG, what are like some of the core things you prioritize and you focus on to make sure that you're building a high quality product?
So the biggest issue early on for us was to make sure that we were getting responses back that were reasonable and efficient for people to get. So, for example, telling somebody something erroneous would be a real big problem for us, and so because people would lose trust in the system very, very quickly had we delivered a bad diagnosis or a bad suggestion, or most of the issue would be delivering some bad advice to somebody that owns a pet. Okay, so that would be a kind of a dangerous thing. Not as dangerous as delivering bad advice to humans. So still pretty bad to be delivering bad advice. And so we had to correct for that. It took us a long time to figure out, and a lot of human watching every single chat going through, a lot of human interactions watching every single chat going through, and tuning the system to make sure that we were not going to respond in a bad way. And so we've got this stable of veterinarians that work for AskVet that have been in the chat world doing the interacting with customers directly, and we're using all of their history of chats to make sure we're delivering the right information, but to make sure that kind of quality assurance aspect to what we're doing had to happen along the way for the last year to make sure. And it still goes on. It doesn't go on with every chat. It goes on as a spot check now. But getting that quality assurance and measurement to make sure that we were answering questions correctly. Not only that, when we changed the inputs to the RAG, making sure that those that we haven't altered the answers too much, and so we set up a QA rubric to make sure that we were continuing not only to answer questions accurately, but to improve those answers over time. And so that's turned out to be quite effective in our process to make sure that we're delivering correct and accurate information. And when we don't, to correct it very, very quickly. So I think that I don't think we've seen a single example in the last several months of where we're answering a veterinarian pet question incorrectly, but it still could happen. So we have to watch. So because LLMs are not precise, the RAG system we're using makes that a lot more precise and a lot better. But we still have to monitor it to make sure. And the nice thing is iLevel has these tools that allow us to correct specific responses if we're running into trouble in a particular bucket. And so it's been that process that has been the biggest challenge and the thing that we've gotten pretty good at over time.
That's crazy impressive. Like no wrong answers for that's really freaking cool. So let me bounce back to you because I want to make sure I understand, because okay. I like to make money too, so I want to know how you do it, right? So it sounds like if you're starting an LLM powered project, you start with humans and the humans do the thing, right? The humans talk and the humans do. You start with that conversation and then you collect data around those types of conversations. And then maybe a nice next step is to maybe have an assistant, like a recommendation, so that you can test, like, hey, as humans are talking, is this system performing well, right? So you kind of give it like very limited controls, but you allow it to give its opinion on a conversation. And then you kind of evolve, and then it kind of starts taking the wheel, but your humans are watching vigilantly to make sure it's performing correctly. And then you get to the point finally, after probably, a while, a couple of months, if you're really diligent about it, you get to the point where it can kind of start taking the wheel. And instead you do spot checks. And I also this is really interesting as well. I think a lot of people don't realize the fragility of a lot of RAG systems. I like ours, and I think I've done some studies, and I think ours is significantly less fragile. Significantly.
I can agree. I can contest to that. I would say that is a true statement.
Yeah,
because we test against other RAG systems as well. So
yeah, but just generally as a paradigm, though, the way it works is when you have a space, right? And what you do is you put your documents into that space. So you have your documents for, I don't know, all of your documents for talking about if your dog gets stung by a bumblebee, right? You have all of your documents for dogs getting stung by bumblebees. And then someone asks a question, hey, my dog got stung by a bumblebee. So what RAG does is it takes your question, it looks at the space, and it goes, oh, these two documents I think are really relevant to your specific question. Let me give those to a language model so that the language model can answer your question. But what's kind of subtle about this is people like to think that you can just throw documents willy-nilly into a RAG system. You throw more documents in and it gets better, right? But one of the problems with that paradigm is if you have all of your documents about bumblebees, right, and they persist, and then you add more documents, but some of them aren't good, next time when you ask the same question, you might get the wrong documents back. So even if you have the same high quality information as before, you have to be diligent when you add documents to a RAG system. And it sounds like the way you're dealing with that is you have a fixed set of QA. You've established your own benchmark so that you can continually evaluate the system as you add more data to make sure that you're not poisoning your data set, essentially. Is that generally correct?
That's a good description of it. I mean, basically, we take a bunch of dangerous questions that somebody could ask and get dangerous advice back in that space, and make sure that the answers that are coming back do not give dangerous advice. I can tell you that there's a lot of overlap in questions that come in from people that are dog owners or cat owners or whatever. That they're asking a lot of the same questions, and so we can. Because of the way, and I would imagine that's true in every industry. It's certainly coming true in a lot of the other industries we're looking at. But that there's a lot of the same questions as a frequently asked questions kind of world, where we can look at those questions and understand what the dangerous questions or the dangerous answers to those questions could be, and building our rubric and modifying it over time to make sure that when we ask those questions again, that we're getting answers that are primarily good answers, and getting better over time. And so and that's when we add new information to the RAG, just like you said. When we add new information to the RAG, we need to make sure that we haven't diluted or downgraded any of the answers that we're getting.
How many questions are on that vital QA eval set?
I think we're up to 35 or 40 or something. I can't remember.
That's interesting. I thought it might have been hundreds or something, but
no. Well, it's just so many that a human can look at, right? So these are we get the RAG we get the process to answer those 35 or 40 questions, and we change those questions over time. But then the answers have to be reviewed by a human. So at some level, hundreds of questions becomes counterproductive as well. So no, it's not that many, but it's they become more valuable questions over time.
It's impressive, as Daniel says, because you're getting to a place of deployment here, and actually in a high stakes deployment that very few companies have really reached in our experience. We've seen so much proof of concept work out there, things that are kind of in the laboratory, or we're making experiments, or we think it could be interesting, but we're not sure how to evaluate it. We are evaluating it, and it's hallucinating. But you guys have built a process of people and machines to push past that and actually deliver real product now several times over. in this market. You're ahead of the most folks in the pack, even really big companies that we talk to. So it's exciting to hear that.
Oh, we move fast.
There's production on the far. It's exciting for me to hear there's production on the far side of this. That like it's not just a POC technology. You can deploy it and get great results.
Yeah.
And importantly, you can deploy it and get very hallucination resistant results to a point where these tools are really, really useful and accurate to consumers or businesses. And the danger of mistake hopefully is, less than a human being would make, or similar to a human being's performance. It sounds like you're there.
Oh yeah, we work at it every day.
And any other cool stuff coming up that cool new technologies or things you're working on that you want people to know about?
I think just building out more interfaces for that same underlying architecture is where our primary focus is now. I mean, when we're getting into other industries, we're using the same techniques to load up different information into various different buckets. We're working on the thing that most of our conversations over the last couple of weeks have been on Vera Voice, the ability to call in with a phone number, get different languages to answer the phone, because we've got customers all over the world now, in Asia and in Europe and so on, that especially in the agriculture field, when they're out in the field and maybe they don't have internet access, that they have phone access, we need them to be able to ask questions over the phone, and have that same underlying RAG and LLM system answer those questions verbally, with voice recognition and voice transcription and translation, so that we can answer the phone, and not only answer the phone in English, but answer the phone in languages from all over the world.
That sounds amazing. I just want to end with one question, unless you got a burner in there, Dan, that's like really good.
But I was just going to say, like everyone's so excited about the hot new stuff going on. And AI is a very exciting field, but like what I hear time and time again from entrepreneurs that are actually doing it is you focus on your core value, the thing that you do right, and you get that locked in and you get it solid. And then what's cool about AI is once you have that locked in, you can just do so many things on top of it, but you have to have that foundation, right? So it's just cool to see an example of that in practice, really killing it. So I've just enjoyed this conversation tremendously.
Great. I'm glad. Me too.
That wasn't a question, dude. That wasn't a question. All right. I do have a question for you, and we'll end with this one. The RAG Masters show is really for RAG engineers and developers who are trying to build the next great RAG system. You've built some great RAG systems already. What's your advice for people getting started on this journey, trying to build a great RAG product? What's your ABCs? What would you tell them?
I would say that it's as we talked about before, the automation is one thing. The technology is something you can take advantage of with relatively straightforward tools. The issue is making sure you get it right. And so focusing on that QA aspect and building out the tools to let humans interact with this in a way that improves every day the quality of what you're delivering, and testing the quality of what you're delivering is something you just cannot leave out of the equation.
Eval.
Exactly.
Think about that from the beginning and have a process that, if I'm summarizing correctly, it really merges some old school human components here and the new technology.
Yeah, you can't take the people out of the process.
Still need humans in the loop. That's going to be the name of our next show, Human in the Loop. All right, Dave, thank you so much for spending time with us today. We really appreciate it. And it's awesome to learn about your technology and your business. We're grateful.
Anytime.
Thanks a lot. That's it for Daniel and I on RAG Masters. I feel like you and I need to record a track, maybe like use some AI to make some music and just make some really corny tune. RAG Masters.
You can make pretty good stuff. Like, I've played around with it. It's kind of freaky. I'm working on an article, audio synthesis. It's
cool.
it's getting pretty impressive.
Getting
Yeah.
good. And you're a musician yourself. You're a guitarist.
I wouldn't say that. I have the hair.
You do have got great like heavy metal hair.
Oh wait, I would headbang, but I can't. I'm in a chair.
You in a mosh pit must be a weird thing to watch. On that note, that visual. Thanks everybody for joining us on Ragmasters. We will see you next time. Take care.